Alright, response video to that conference report guy. I try to talk fast and try to make this short because I know I'm really taking up a lot of time with these videos. Anyway, he's talking about evolution and trying to keep the word pristine and keep it out of the hands of the people who want to fuck with it and use it for things that really aren't applicable. But it's really hard to do that because just about anything that's reproducing in some way, you could really apply the term evolution to it because over time it's going to change. I mean, I can't really imagine how we could create anything that was impervious to change. Even if we had a computer and it ran a certain way and we enabled that computer to reproduce itself, over time, even if we had security features and everything else, there's probably going to be some way for change to affect the blueprint, the copying process, to mess it up, to break it, and there you open the door to evolution. And so then all that would matter is whether you had enough time. Maybe you need a trillion gazillion years for you to evolve it much. But the point is, if you had enough permutations, enough experiments, you will have evolution. Alright, now the point two was, this discussion was sort of pointed at what is evolution doing? I mean, is it really just a complexity engine? I mean, just, the end result is just to create complexity. Or is it efficient design? That was also part of it. I mean, he really got to that one label that I thought was really good, where he just kind of pointed out that what evolution is doing is niching organisms. Whatever can do it best. Create the best shields, the best moat, the best castle, the most secure thing, the most durable exploitation of a niche, and nothing's going to kick it out of its niche then if it's a real efficient niche fitter. And that's what evolution is sort of doing, and it's not so much the complexity thing as it is the niche thing. And even the complexity thing gets kind of eccentric. I mean, it's not like it's all good complexity. It's complexity that just ends up creating eccentric, clutter, fancy, because it's really hard for things to go backwards. I mean, once evolution is very good at piling new features on. It's very bad at getting rid of an old feature. So it takes it a long time, let's say, to get rid of a vestigial part that isn't in some way detrimental to its new, what new world it's capitalizing. And so it ends up with just a lot of that the hardware can get a little bit inefficient just because of the burdens of extracting the old complexity. And I almost hate to say the word inefficient, because obviously it's still going to have pressures to be efficient. But the point is, it will do it in a very, especially if everything it's competing against is likewise blighted, it might exploit an environment in a very complex and sophisticated way where some kind of really simple organism might be able to slide in underneath it. So while they're becoming more complex and sophisticated and intricate in how they're exploiting an environment, that complexity makes them more vulnerable in some respects, because it needs more maintaining. It's like a European fancy car or something. You got to maintain it. You got to do more for it than some kind of hard, reliable, simple diesel engine, because the performance is going to require this maintenance. So I mean, theoretically, maybe a giant amoeba will someday take our place, or something much simpler, a much cruder design will slip in underneath and consume our niche, because we're just doing it way too complicated. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting to. And then this directionality thing, like it is, pointed in some kind of direction. Well, obviously the direction is the complexity thing, because it is inevitable that things become more and more, like I said, the adding on features is easier than the taking away features. And secondly, the environments that have to be exploited, the niches, you have to become a more sophisticated organism to exploit them. That's why they're unexploited. That's why they're available to be exploited, is because the current design can't reach it, or can't get to it, or can't fully maximize the potential of some new exploitable environment. So obviously there has to be some new features to get to it, or to maximize the exploitation of it. So yeah, it's going to make you, there's going to be additions to the design. So you're going to have to do more processing. You're going to have to get fuel out of lesser quality food, or you're going to have to, all of that kind of crap. Yeah, but ultimately, where does it go? Does it have any any place to go, this evolution, besides creating a crocodile or a housefly. These little perfect organisms, these ones that nothing's going to replace them. They've stood the test of time, so to speak, and nothing's been able to slip in the door, or under it, or through it, or around it. Nothing's been able to capitalize on the environment better than they are, or good enough to break their monopoly. Maybe they have such a monopoly that they might not be the most efficient design anymore, but they just have such a mass that they're impossible to extinguish, or very difficult to extinguish in a raw competition. Maybe they can be extinguished by a virus or some other kind of fungus or some other thing that attacks them personally, but they're not going to be out-competed in the environment. They're like William Randolph Hearst or something. They've gotten so much power, so much control by mass that you know, there's just really nothing that can bother. Nothing's going to be able to expend the energy to wipe them off of their turf. No one's going to be able to maximize the environment so much better than them that they're going to be able to withstand the battle of attempting the takeover. Maybe that's the way to put it. Nothing's going to have the numbers, the durability to get into a war and win it over time. So that's sort of an interesting angle of the whole thing. But yeah, it's all about these words we use. I mean, you know, what's the difference between complexity, which sounds nice, and clutter, which sounds kind of cruddy, or extravagant, or eccentric. I mean, eccentric and complex are very similar words, but you know, one is a good and one is a bad, and there's lots of that in evolution. And I would argue in what we are sort of demonstrating in evolution is in the evolution of a brain and intelligence, that it has really nowhere to go. Once intelligence figures out the maze that the animals are running around in, and figure out what they're running for, the cheese they're chasing, and how much cheese they're getting versus how much waste and how much blood and guts and life and death, and once it puts all these numbers into this game, that's it. There's no evolution's over as a physical evolution, and the game is just about trying to maximize these equations and figure out whether there's any point in this chase in the first place, because we figure out that this mechanism is just addiction and desire. You know, maybe there's a shortcut to satisfying it. You know, maybe we can just put some push buttons. Great sex. I'll just hit that button. Have some great sex. You know, or whatever the button would be. You know, great dinner, filet mignon, blah blah blah. I just press a button and have what I want. No need to play the game anymore, because we know how to maintain the organism. We know how to create what it needs. It doesn't have to go out into the niche anymore and take the stuff. It can just send a robot out to go collect the food, process it for it, give it to it in the form it wants. It no longer has to actually physically integrate into the world and compete and succeed. And now it can choose what it reproduces with based on an intellectual program, a knowledge program that didn't evolve at the same time as the rest of the physical part. So that's the part I would argue with you. Is the misapplication of the word evolution, I think, is it's only misplaced when it's used to describe something that's taking place that's evolving based on maybe two different things that are evolving. Like our consciousness is evolving through, I guess check my time here, getting short, through two different mechanisms. It's the knowledge and the cultural meme evolution that's taking place, where it's getting filtered through each one of our intellects, through our minds over time. We're refining the words, refining the sentences, refining the phrases that we determine knowledge to be. We're going to learn the Earth is round, the sun's in the center of the solar system, the solar system is part of the galaxy. We obtain all this knowledge, but that complexity is also efficient and perfect, is perfected not by natural selection, but by the selection process that's going to take place in a brain that's been designed to do reasoning, to be modeling, to be functional as a modeling device. And so that's part of what our consciousness is being filled with, is that evolution of these ideas versus the evolution of the physical hardware, which is doing something else. And I'd argue that neither one of them are any more connected to any kind of natural selection. One is connected to the knowledge base growing, which is disciplined by reasoning. The other one is also controlled by that knowledge base that now understands how reproduction works and wears condoms and decides when to and not to have kids, and what kind of environment it wants to exploit, and all of that crap. So the game is really over in terms of evolution, regardless of how you look at it, for human beings. We're not doing any strict evolution anymore. It's not dumb forces controlling it. It's knowledge base that's controlling it, both physically and intellectually. Yeah, I think I made it. Okay. Anyway, sorry about all the videos, but yeah, it happens.